My name's Adele Onyango and welcome to another episode of Legally Clueless. No, seriously, I have no clue what I'm doing, but I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one. Hey you, welcome to episode 205 of Legally Clueless. I'm so excited that you're part of this family. If you're an OG, thank you so much for the love throughout. And if you're new to this podcast, episodes like this go out every single Monday. And if this is the first time you're listening, we have our first event of 2023 coming up, and it's a group therapy session. I'm very excited about this because I often talk about my therapist on this podcast and just how she's held my hand through my healing journey. Last year's healing journey was hectic. It was so hectic. Honestly, there are days I don't think without therapy I would have made it. And so I'm really big on trying to make therapy as accessible as possible. So my therapist is going to be facilitating this first group therapy session. The theme is losses without funerals. So we're going to be walking through losses we've gone through in our lives that aren't necessarily caused by the physical death of a person, but they still elicit feelings of grief and we just don't process. So loss of a job, loss of a relationship, loss of a friendship, loss of a business, loss of a marriage, loss of expectations and identity. Honestly, the list is pretty long. And so I'm very excited to be able to do this healing journey with you. I think this is right down my purpose's path. It just feels so good to be able to do this with you. And so it's going to be on the 25th of February here in Nairobi in person at Kanga Studio at 9:30 a.m. And tickets have to be bought in advance because we have a limited number. It's group therapy, not a concert. So you can grab your tickets just by going to legallycluelessafrica.com or clicking the link in the show notes. Tickets go for 1,500 Kenya shillings. And I'm so excited because, first and foremost, doing things like this is scary. Oh my goodness. It's scary because you're just like, what if nobody gives a damn? You want to do this thing, but what if no one shows up? In the back of my head, I'm always like, well, if that happens, it's sad, but it's not the end of the world. But you still feel that anxiety and that nervousness, Anybody who's ever put together something that they care about that requires people to attend or plug into, I know you understand the nerves that I'm going through. Anyway, I really do hope to see you there. So head over to legallycluelessafrica.com to grab your tickets. All right, let's jump into what's coming up in this episode that's apparently good for your soul. Listen to this.
I've always chased love ever since I was born. I was born into a toxic domestic violent home. My dad had 2 wives who were living in the same house and it was as one room. But then one thing that I realized is that the people that I loved, there's a pattern with the people that I love. The last relationship that I was in, right now I'm not in any relationship, but the last relationship that I was in taught me so much about what love truly is. My last relationship taught me that when you love people more than they love themselves, you're going to be the problem. People cannot accept what they can't give themselves. I was at a situation where I was helping this person so much. I wasn't even sending money home just so that this person's family is okay first before even my family. I can love you, but if me loving you is getting in the way of me showing up for myself, then I don't want it.
That is Sweetie Nyarkano. Okay, one of my favorite people on the internet to date. And she's going to be sharing a series of stories and, just some deep shit is coming up. But before we get there, the song of the week. I cannot believe I haven't shared this song with you, and the way it carried me through uni days. I sometimes forget how much of an India Arie fan I am. Just always loved her music, her demeanor. The lyrics are always so poetic and just appeal to the poet in me. I love this particular song because it's a reminder that you have everything you need to take on life and its challenges within you from an emotional standpoint. And it's called Strength, Courage, and Wisdom. And I just have always loved this song. through uni, I kept going back to it. Times when I just felt like, what the heck am I doing in my life? Yeah, I loved the song. And so I hope it can be as soothing to you as it is to me. So I'll put a link to it in the show notes. Just a bit of a catch up. I am so drenched in peace and gratitude. This is a space I never thought I would reach. A year ago, I was the complete opposite of this. I love this for me. I want to stay in the state even when lifes and rattles me. I want to master this inner peace to the point that the outside world doesn't get me so, on edge. But this is a space I'm in and I'm really thankful. And something else that I went through that I wanted to share is a life-changing birthday gift that I got. So first and foremost, I shared last week's episode from a surprise birthday getaway. That was so magical and just so good for my soul. I felt so loved and so appreciated and just covered by kindness. It was so good. It was so good. Coming off the back of that, I got another life-changing birthday gift, which was a body talk therapy session. And this came from someone who was friends with my mom and then now has become my friend and is always just sending me such good energy. Her name is Gina Din, and I worked for her before I went into uni. I think I was like 16. And I knew I wanted to go into PR, so I worked at her firm. My mom told me to do that before I go to uni, just to be sure that this is what I wanted to do, and 100% that's what I wanted to do, even though life does its thing and now I'm not directly doing PR, but still in the media space. With time and even after my mom's death, we've now grown into friends, which is quite magical. So she got me this gift, a body talk therapy session. And the energy worker, that's what I'm calling the person that I met. I feel like she's just an energy worker, finds energy blockages in your body, that can sometimes, if left unchecked, manifest in like physical health issues, because mind, body, spirit are interconnected. And it was so magical, life-changing. She was able to identify physical issues I have been facing that are fueled by certain emotions that I'm processing or finding hard to navigate. It was so validating. Some things I experienced made so much sense. It really is. It was just powerful and magical and life-changing. And I think this has been the best birthday I've had in a while. Internally, I feel more grounded, but also I took a chance and opened myself up to receive love, to receive softness, to receive kindness. And oh my word, it was showered on me. And yeah, I'm at peace and I am so grateful. So grateful. Okay. I want us to jump into 100 African story. This is part 1. Part 2 will come on next week. And our storyteller is Swiri Nyarkano. If you do not know about her, she does amazing work online educating us Africans about who we are. And she came on the podcast and shared a series of stories, a series of experiences, a series of lessons that quite frankly are great for your soul.
100 African stories on Legally Clueless. Stories from Africa.
My name is Swiri Nyarkano. That is the one I like the most. But my baptismal name is Vivian Tabu Okumu, of which Vivian Rose Tabu Okumu. So Okumu and Rose is my maternal and Okumu is my paternal. So Vivian Tabu is mine. And then Swiri Nyarkano. Nyarkano is daughter of Kano. Kano means to keep Kano, So, like, where I come from, we come from the source, which is like Victoria. So the name to me, as an individual, the name has always been, it's almost like our ancestral treasures kept in the Lake Victoria. And with time, River Nile carries them all the way to the ocean. So that is what I believe about the sacredness of our lands. It is a keeper. It is the plains where everything goes when it rains. Growing up, I feel like I felt like I was different, but not different in a way that I did not belong, but I felt like I could see certain things and, be able to comprehend certain things that people around me were not comprehending the way I was. So with time, like, there were moments where I felt like, okay, I can see it. They cannot see it. Okay, so I'm just going to see it. And so when I was young, when I was a little kid, I was very talkative. I used to be very talkative, and it used to piss people around me off. And even before I was aware, these were stories I was being told. Even now after I became aware, my talkativeness just started, it was pissing people off, but I liked it, so it made me wonder, what about me repels people so much? And I remember when I was young in our house, in our nuclear family, my mom used to also dislike what I used to do, like how I'm a truth teller. Like, I will tell you the way I don't like meandering about the truth and blah. And I started doing that when I was very young. Like things would happen at home and my dad would come and I would tell him everything the way it happened. So this started becoming an issue in my family. And so I knew from a very young age, I was very young, I can't really tell when, but from a very young age, I just knew I needed to really stand up for myself. And also something that really kept me in touch was also my dad. My dad applauded me. He always congratulated me for, speaking up. When I was young, when I was a kid, I was called Sweetie. That is how it is pronounced, not Sweetie or Sweetie or whatever. It's Sweetie. That was the name I was given by village people, okay? And just from my character. I think everyone has one of those. In my family, everyone has one of those, like the nickname that you get called. Like, people don't really use baptismal names. So you see, my nickname is Sweetie, and then my baptismal name is Vivian Tabu. And Tabu is a very important part of my name because I carried that. I feel like throughout my life, because when I was young, I did not want to be called Sweetie. It was embarrassing to me. And I dissociated myself from it up to high school. When people called me that, I felt embarrassed. So I did not even want to bring my friends for a sleepover so they get to know the name that I'm called. But then again, I used to use Vivian Tabu. Every time I would mention that my name is Vivian Tabu, there's no time. Even my teachers, there's no time somebody said something good about it. Like, every time I would tell someone, what's your name? Vivian Tabu. And then they would go like, hey, who gave you that Tabu name? Hey, who gave you? And then they started now making it look like, probably she's named Tabu because she's problematic. But I'm not a problematic person. So this Vivian Tabu was an introduction. Like, that name used to introduce me. Even in high school, there are teachers who hated me just because I was called Vivian Tabu. They wanted me to change it to Raha, siju what. Mbona unaitwa Mashida? But then I asked my mom, because of that attention that I used to get out of that name, I went and asked my mom, because that name is not in our lineage, it's nowhere. So my mom told me, hey, maybe when I gave birth to you, I've never seen what I go. She was telling me, I've never seen what I went through when I got pregnant with you. I did not know. And my mom did not give me a Luo name. I'm the only one amongst my sibling who doesn't have a Luo name. So instead of giving me a Luo name, she gave me Tabu, and she said, I gave birth to you at 1 p.m. And by 6, I was on the sewing machine. Nilikuwa nimekaa. Mamangu alikuwa anashona manguo, babangu anaenda kuuza. When I was young, okay? So she said that her life was very hectic, and even my dad was giving her a lot of problems. It was so hectic when she was pregnant with him. But then again, she told me that, but me, I did not give her issues. That is why she was able to even give birth to me and still be able to sit on the machine. So she said, I gave birth to you, and the situation around you was so terrible, but she told me that even when I was young, people just came to dress me. Like, I was a poor kid, but adi, like, kuna waindi walikuwa nampatia manguo tu, anivalishe, food, things. Like, after giving birth to me, it was like, I did not give her issues, but she had issues before she gave birth to me. And so that is why she named me Tabu. But then after giving birth to me, after seeing what I was, now that is when they started calling me Sweetie. One thing I will tell you about love, I've always chased love ever since I was born. I was born into a toxic domestic violent home. My dad had 2 wives who were living in the same house, and it was as one room. So there was like one bed for my mom over here and one bed for the other wife over there. And in the morning, like, huyu alikuwa anafagia anapeleka kwa kitanda ya huyu. And that would lead to war. Like, it was just war. And I was born seeing that war. I was born into that war. By the time I was sitting, all that was around me was war. Tulikuwa tunaishi Mathare. The neighbors used to feel sorry for us, because my parents used to fight all the time. Growing up, I wanted love so bad. I wanted my family to love each other. I just wanted my mom to love my dad, like the way other moms, are loved by their husbands. But it did not happen. And I kept wishing for it. I kept saying that, hey, maybe when I'm in class 1, things will change. It did not change. Things did not change even throughout high school. Things did not change. I don't know whether my understanding of love is different from that particular experience. But then one thing that I realized is that the people that I loved, there's a pattern with the people that I love. I usually love them so much, they don't take it. They don't accept it, okay? The last relationship that I was in, right now I'm not in any relationship, but the last relationship that I was in taught me so much about what love truly is. And that was when I realized that it's not like, even though I wanted love so much and I did not get it growing up, I had it. I did not let go of it. And I kept giving it just the same way I was giving it to my family and they did not want to take it. But I wasn't giving it to myself. I was giving it out. And so my last relationship was also the same. When you love people, my last relationship taught me that when you love people more than they love themselves, you're going to be the problem. People cannot accept what they can't give themselves. People cannot accept the respect they can't give themselves. People cannot accept the discipline they can't give themselves. People cannot accept the love that they can't give themselves. And so even my best friends, even relationships that were not romantic, I was giving so much. And my best friend, somebody I called my best friend for 4 years. One day she came into my house and told my partner that she doesn't know why I call her best friend. You understand? And this is something that she was taking it, but she wasn't telling me that, hey, mbona unaniita hii best friend? Mi si best friend yako. After realizing all these things, people not being able to accept and calling me intense, because for her, she was like, hey, she's just intense. There's some excess of mine that I just went to talk to. Because sometimes I just want to understand, like, what did I do wrong? What happened? Why couldn't we work? And then people kept telling me I'm intense. You understand? So I'm like, So apatia too much. It's too much. So after my last relationship, I decided I'm not going to give that love to people anymore because there was somebody who was starving so much, and that was me. So I just decided, you know what? I'm not going to give it. I'm going to pour it back to myself, and trust me, when I started pouring to myself, people started coming. People now want it. Even my own family members, like people now, they're now talking to me in a more kind way, in a more loving way, in a more respectful way, because I've turned to love myself. I've turned to not look for people to love. I was looking for people to love my whole life, I swear. My whole life I was looking for people to love, but I wasn't loving myself. So I just decided that, you know what, I'm just going to love myself. If my love is intense, I can never say I love me too intensely. And that is what I started to do. And that is what my last relationship taught me, that you can never love people more than they love themselves. If you're giving them a love that is too much from what they are used to giving themselves, you are going to be the problem. And they're going to create a conflict out of it and make you feel like something is wrong with you. When you find yourself in a situation where you are giving too much, just turn it. I just turned. I was looking this direction. I just turned and looked the other way. Now, let me tell you, Hey, you know this person, I don't want to say their pronouns or whatever, but this person, like Mimi, I was looking for loving. I wasn't looking to be loved because I knew I can stand. I know my strength, So I was looking for loving. Hiyo love yenye nilikuwa napeana, haikuwa enough. Like it's not like it wasn't enough, but it wasn't being seen. I was at a situation where I was helping this person so much. I wasn't even sending money home just so that this person's family is okay first before even my family. I was going out of my way I don't buy people gifts. It's not my thing. It's not my culture. I did not grow up seeing people do that. But just because I want to go out of my way, I go out of my way, I do these things to this particular person, and they're still finding faults. I go out of my way to make them feel comfortable around me so that they can trust me with themselves. They're still lying. They're still finding ways to lie, ways to make me feel like, oh, you're not doing what I want. You're not doing what I want. So I stopped. It's too much because they say you're not doing this, you do it. There's another thing again waiting. And by the time I was doing all these things, I was neglecting me showing up for myself because I also need to show up for myself. I have fashion, I have content creation. I need to show up for these things. And the moment my mind is like away from me showing up for myself, I realized that however much I love them, I was neglecting myself on their behalf. So I had to choose, like, am I going to love you? Am I going to turn and actually stand up for myself? Because I'm telling you, this person, and unajua sometimes ni shetani. Mimi sometimes I think it's just demonic entities. Because this person used to give me a lot of issues only when I had very important things to do in my life. For example, when I needed to show up for a project. When you need to show up for a project, you need to be there 100%. If you're not, time waits for no man. You understand? And also, if you're not there 100%, you will end up delivering mediocre. This person was somebody I thought would support me in these times that I'm really required to elevate. But every time I was required to elevate, every time, even they did not care how much the intensity of the project was, even if it had so much money on the other side. They would just make my life so much difficult that I would struggle to show up for the things that I need to show up for. And so from there, I just started seeing like, I need to prioritize my energy. You can love people. I can love you, but if me loving you is getting in the way of me showing up for myself, then I don't want it. I don't want to do it. If me loving you is getting in the way of me being authentic to myself, if me loving you is making me to be untrue or to live in denial or to be tired all the time or to have mental fog all the time, then I don't want it. Because one thing I realize about energy is that it's so easy. It's so easy for somebody to not show up. Not showing up is so easy. I have friends who they get deals. People get deals and then not showing up. Just showing up to sign a contract. Just showing up to do homework. Just showing up to do a project and hand it in, or maybe just write a letter. Just writing an invoice. Some people can't show up for that because they're busy showing up for other things. And me, that was going to be me. That was going to be me. Not being able to show up for the important things in my life in order for me to show up for somebody's naggingness and somebody, just being difficult. I just said, no, I don't need that in my life. Love to me, what I would define love as is, it's nature. Love to me is green. Love to me is just knowing you're not alone and yet you're alone. Love to me is being alone and just knowing that you're not. That is love to me. And just being able to accept yourself the way you are and just knowing that you are a work in progress, and that you are the best version of yourself and you're right on time. You're not late anywhere and you're not early anywhere. You're right on time where you are. That to me is what love is. It has nothing to do with other people. It has everything to do with me. Okay, one thing I will tell you. Fear is something that rarely exists in my vocabulary. But I would say I'm cautious about masculinity. Like, especially the one in a very highest spectrum of it. I feel very unsafe around very high levels of masculinity, especially the ones that don't feel safe in themselves. Those are the things, I don't really fear them, but I'm cautious around very high level of masculine projection. Because personally, I like softness. I feel so safe around calm, soft, I don't like rough things. Mimi, I'm cautious about the masculinity to the point I don't like seeing men fight. Like, I don't like a man in rage. I don't like being close to that. And I think it comes from my relationship with my own father when I was young. Okay, so, and also my brother. Like, I don't have good relationships with the masculines in my life. It was always very violent, very forced, very pa, And to me, I've grown from fearing masculinity to actually just being cautious around it, because you are dangerous to anything if you're dangerous to yourself. And I don't like associating myself with people who are dangerous to themselves, because I know they are dangerous to me. I don't like associating myself with people who are disrespectful to themselves. I come from Luoland, and one thing you know about Luoland is a very patriarchal society. Like, and it is traditional, it goes back in time. Our ancestors have always been patriarchal. There are some matriarchal, like the Gikuyus, at some point they were, but ours has always been a patriarchal society. And now patriarchy, now you add on top of the colonial patriarchy, you add it to patriarchy now. In Luoland, the level of patriarchy doesn't even allow for such kind of conversations to be had. Like, if I was to sit my dad down or my brother down to talk to them about that, I'm 100% sure they would be pissed off. You understand? So personally, I believe in telepathic communication. And I know that the moment I'm changing myself, everything around me is changing. And I've seen it as well. There are times that I say what needs to be said. And yes, there are times I've stood up to my dad and told him at a family level and told him this and this and this I don't agree with. But when it comes to now delving into personal issues like that, I know we are going to get there. The way we are going, I know we are going to get to a point where we are going to talk about these things. But right now, we are still not at that particular point where we talk about these things. So everybody's just working on themselves at a personal level at this point. And that is what I'm also doing as well. So I'm just giving everybody space to also look at their life, reflect on their lives, the way I'm reflecting on mine and how they affected me. I'm sure they can also reflect on theirs and how me being a sibling or a daughter or whatever has affected them. And so one day, we will talk about it now from a point of everybody knows what they are talking about. But right now, it cannot penetrate. It's not time yet. Kwanza, one thing I think about me growing up in a relationship was learning how to establish boundaries, because for the longest time I did not have any. I had no boundaries at all. Like, I would take anything. I would let people walk all over me and stuff like that. But with time, even with my family, I'm telling you, working on yourself changes everything. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Me, my family right now, the way I carry myself, they already know how far they can go and how far they can't, because just the way I was when I was young, I will always tell you the truth. And some people, they don't like hearing that particular truth. So when they know you're going to tell them the truth, they'd rather not cross you. So one thing in my family is, I think, self-respect, like just me respecting myself, me standing up for what I believe in and my life, and me also, and I think the reason why I'm able to exercise this in my family is because we were poor, okay? I've made my life up to the point that I've reached. I have done everything possible for me to get out of the poverty by myself, Nobody helped me to do it. And so the fact that I've gotten myself to this particular place, I'm going to tell you how you're going to interact with this. Because, some of disrespect in families, they come when they feel entitled that, hey, tulikufanyai. But Mimi, if you did nothing in my life, then you have to come slowly. If I owe you nothing, because one thing I realize also in life, oh my God, owing people, you will never be free. You cannot be free. Utakuwa unakula na mtu anakuangalia ati, I think people need to really embrace independence and just not begging people for things. Because when you do things by yourself, you gain freedom, true freedom, and you gain respect from people. Because when you build it by yourself, nobody can come and shit on it. So that is how I maintain my boundaries with my family. Right now, especially that I'm grown right now, they have no say in my life. We live like adults who are trying to make something work, of which if it works, it works. If it doesn't work, pia tusha grow. Birds, they fly away after their parents have nurtured them and they never see each other. Some of them, they never see each other again. That can also happen. I'm also ready for that. So I'm at a point in my life where I'm no longer trying to make my family love one another. I tried that and it did not work. Right now, I'm just like focusing on myself, and I hope with the hopes that they are also focusing on themselves, so that one day we meet and we are able to actually create the family that we all wanted growing up. Yeah, me, like, if there's anybody I'm proud of in this world, and I wouldn't, right now, if I speak about that, I would split myself into two. I would talk about that kid that grew up in Mathare, that was born in Mathare, and went to Shags. Me, then, my inner child, is so proud of me right now, because we've done everything we said we would. Anything I said I would do, I have done it. And anything that I haven't done yet, I am on my way to doing it. Everything that I promised my inner child. And this is what relationships sometimes, and I think there's something here that I want to tell you. People steal time, energy, passion, and strength and will. When you interact with people, it doesn't matter whether it's family, as long as you love them. As long as you have the ability to love them, they have the ability to affect you. And what people steal, most of the time people think that, watu wananifanyia uchawi, ama sijui nini. It's just time, strength, energy, passion, and will. Mimi, I protect my strength, my energy, my passion, and my will. I want them. Those are the wings of my inner child. Anybody that comes to tamper with my passion, with my strength, especially I tell you, by the way, I want to do this by next year, and then you start telling me, how will you? That is how, I just don't want to listen to it. I protect my inner child's energy like a soldier protecting a queen or something. I don't want people who come into my life and start having opinions about, you come into my life for 2 minutes and you think you already know the past 26 years of my life. So I'm very disciplined when it comes to making sure I guard my inner child. And as a result, oh my God, dopamine, these chemicals that people seek in drugs, you can have them when you fulfill the things you promise yourself. My God, sometimes I just say, by the way, I want to make this match by this time. And then I make it. And then I just dance in my house. And I'm just like, yes! And next time we do it again. And my body has learned to trust me as well. I have a very good relationship with my body when I tell them, we are going to do this, by the way. Get ready. I know we've not done it before, but get ready to show up. And we show up. But there was a time that I had so much people around me, so much energies trying to tell me, you can't do this, you can't do this, projecting. And these things can affect even your movement. It can affect the relationship that you have with yourself. And it affected the relationship that I had with my inner child to a point I lost my mojo. You understand? I would wake up and I did not want to wake up, and there were moments where I did not want to do any, even creativity, it disappeared. My creativity disappeared and I knew it wasn't there. And I could feel it wasn't there. And I had to self-isolate to generate it back. So I'm very disciplined when it comes to the energies that I associate with, especially from the fact that I've gotten myself to a point where I know that as long as I have my ancestors, as long as I have my DNA, as long as I'm taking care of my body and I'm healthy, then I have the capability of showing up for myself. So I don't beg people to show up for me. I don't go around seeking validation or seeking people, proving myself to people. I prove myself to myself. I do the things I tell myself I will do. I show up to make myself happy, because there are things that myself desire as well. And right now I've reached a point where I'm even scared to associate with other people, because if my desires are not aligned with yours, I don't want to string you into mine, and I don't want you to blind me into yours. I just want everybody move in your way, I'm moving in my way, and then we are having fun. So that is how I keep, my inner child motivated, because they always know that as long as we say we are going to do it and we do it, then we are good, we progress and we move. I've always had a very strong intuition, but I did not know it was intuition because we live in a world where nobody tells you this is intuition, this is memory. So when I was young, I've had like 2 experiences. One, when I was young, there was a time I used to be a performer. So when you perform, you were given a badge. So one day I was given a badge. And I was so careless as a child, I lost it, okay? And they said, if you lose the badge, you pay. And my dad did not want to hear anything from school. Like, as long as you go to school, don't bring issues. So this thing stressed me out. I was so young. I think I was in class 4. It stressed me out so much. I was just like, where am I going to get that tag? Where am I going to get that tag? So I just started speaking within myself and really begging whatever it was. You know, there was a time. Now, let me tell you my relationship with faith first. Mimi, I did not, like, when I was growing up, I felt safe for as long as I knew my parents were able to do things for me. But when I reached a point where they couldn't, when I noticed that, by the way, hapa pia hao wazazi pia wanahitaji wazazi wengine, like they cannot do this shit for you. So that is when I started developing a relationship with an outside force, because I knew by myself I cannot manage. There has to be an outside force that put me here. So whichever that outside force was, I started talking to whichever that outside force was. And I started walking. As I was talking, I started walking. And then by the time I was opening my eyes, it was just so natural. Like I just opened my eyes and looking down, there was the pin. And I forgot, I was so happy. I forgot about the whole process. I was just happy I got it. I'm not in trouble anymore. I put it inside my bag and I returned it. I always questioned, because I always listened to that voice. That voice, I listened to it without question, to a point I did not know what it was anymore. I was just like, what if it's just nonsense? So one day, when I was walking, Mimi, I used to listen to my intuition so much that if it tells me, hey, Vivian, don't go, I don't. Like, hey, there's something off, I don't. So this particular day, nilikuwa nimezindikisha my friend. I was staying in the University of Nairobi Stella Winja hostels. And my friend Mahi, I hope she will listen to this because we've not talked for so long. So I took her. She had come to visit me. She had come to visit me at the hostel. So nikampeleka GPO. And then from GPO, normally my spirits would tell me, don't follow any other way. From GPO, just go back to St. Paul's and then to Stella Winja. But then that day I was so tired. I was just like, whichever this voice is now today, let me do this and see what will happen. Let me see what will happen when I go against this particular voice that talks to me in the head. And I did not listen. So what I did was I followed where my voice was not telling me to follow. And it wasn't even usiku, it was kitu saa moja. So I was just like, this would be quick. Let me just go through. And by the time I was reaching the middle of that path, somebody just approached me, and when that person approached me, I knew shit was going down. Like I knew this is the fucking shit that I was being warned against. Mm-hmm. And he came and he looked me straight in the eye, and I looked at him, and he was moving towards me as if he was talking. You know, these people who are talking and you can't hear what they're saying and they're moving towards you, and I'm just like, why are you moving to? So like, I was assaulted, just like that. Like I was raped hapo nyuma ya Serena Hotel. And the whole time it was happening, my head was like, so that voice is true. So that voice is true. The whole time it was happening, I was just like, so that voice is true. And after that, I said I would never not listen again. So that was the relationship that I had with my intuition that changed. And since then, I started developing a relationship with my intuition, and it has been uphill from there. Like, I've escaped things that I did not know. I even escaped death the other day from an accident, a road accident. There was something ilikuwa inavuruta sweater yenye nimevaa. So ingenivuruta na sweater. But I knew that like seconds before it happened, and I removed the sweater. So before it was going to go with my left hand. Actually, because that jacket got torn at the left hand, yote ikatangana na the jacket, then in the kimono. I thanked myself so much after that, because I was just like, imagine if I did not remove myself within that second that I got the hint that something is off. And then the first thing I did, even before the guy who mwenye alikuwa amenibeba, before I knew what was up, Mimi, I just removed the jacket to know later. So So after removing the jacket, kumbe I realized nilikuwa navurutwa na hiyo jacket and it would have been a whole different story. Me listening to my intuition is everything in my life. And that is one thing that I'm so grateful for on this planet, because it has helped me in ways that I cannot even begin to explain to anybody. And I just communicate very strongly. You know, alone is like all one. Like when you're alone, when you're, even in the religiously, like when you look at the religious books, they talk about Exodus. You know, people talk about these things, but people don't really read about these things. So when he's talking about Exodus, you know, Leviticus, Exodus, that is the relationship that Egyptians had with the Israelites, and then they move. You know, you and your exes, you move, and then you get into the wilderness. Because obviously, always, for you to get into the wilderness, you had come from an Egypt somewhere. You know, for you to have gotten into that aloneness, you came from a crowd somewhere, some particular setup or whatever. So being alone, being in the wilderness, you know, the Israelites were in the wilderness. Being in the wilderness, that is when you get to turn to see your own face. That is when you get to turn to see who you are. That is when you get to turn to actually know the energies that have been present with you all along. Because they've been present even when you did not know that these energies were present. They have been present. You know, this energy that some people call God, some people call Allah or whatever, whichever it makes sense to you. These particular energies, you get to encounter them on one-on-one when you are in solace. You cannot when you are in the crowd. It's like when you're in the crowd, there's just so much outside noise. And that noise is real. You know, the outside noise is real. It tampers with the inside voices. When the outside noise is too loud, the inside voices cannot be heard. But when the outside noises are quiet and silent, then the inside voices now starts to become loud. So that is, when you are in solitude, then that is you connecting to yourself, of which yourself is just these all other people. It is these all other people, because when you're connecting with yourself, you are repairing yourself, you're repairing the wounds within you. By the time you're coming back to interact with these other people, you'll be, even them, they'll see a totally different person. And they will know, like, there's a level up that has occurred. And they will treat you differently, the same way you treat yourself. People treat you the way you treat yourself. But when you are in the crowd, you probably disrespect yourself, you doubt yourself, you do all that. When you get into solace now, you develop self-respect, you develop self-discipline, you develop self-awareness, and you realize that you're not what people defined you as. Because when you're in the crowd and you don't define yourself, you don't know. You know, there's being in the crowd and you know who you are. And then there's being in the crowd and not knowing who you are. When you're in the crowd and you don't know who you are, the crowd is bound to tell you who you are. Because you remember, people are peepholes. Imagine if you don't know who you are and you're looking through a peephole. You're bound to not even have feet on the ground. You don't have roots. You'll float through everything. People please everybody. But when you know who you are and you stare into people's faces, you will know who they are. The only way to know who people are is by knowing who you are. And if you do not know who you are, you have no idea who anyone is. And this is one thing that also empaths need to know. People are not who you think. People are not how you see them. You see yourself in people. And this is why so many people get so heartbroken, because you think it's you. You think that person is what you are seeing. But maybe you've met somebody and they are 24 years of age. And you think you know them. No, you only know you. You are only 24 years of age. You have no idea of who that person is. Unless they open their mouths and they tell you. But in a world that we live in today, people, when they open their mouths, they are selling CVs. They are telling you how amazing. They are telling you, people, when they open their mouths, they conceal more than they reveal. So you have to trust yourself, because you can't trust what people tell you about themselves. People have amazing things to say about themselves. That is one thing that empaths need to know. Yeah. Because narcissists are taking advantage of that ignorance. The fact that an empath will look at you and they see themselves. Yeah. It's themselves that they see, so they think you are all this. And you're not. And narcissists, they know that, this person is just projecting themselves on me. So as an empath also, you need to be very aware, because if you're not, then you'll fall into ditches that you have no idea. You'll fall. Some people are shimo. Yeah. When you enter them, you've gotten yourself into a whole ditch that is very dark, but when you look at them on the outside, It's a vessel that is very nice, well fed, very nicely dressed. Makeup on point. Kumbe ndani. Hey.
Catch more African stories in the next episode of Legally Clueless.
Wasn't that so insightful and just so powerful, man? Like, when we recorded this, we spoke for over an hour, and that's why it's part 1, part 2, because I just wanted to ensure you hear everything. And I just love how she connected her intimate relationship experiences to her childhood and her upbringing, because I think that's something we often forget. Our childhood and the environment we grew up in has so much influence on us. And once you're cognizant about this, you will intentionally do better and make better choices, even when it comes to love. And it's just, I really loved that bit. Next week, we will hear part 2 of her story. This is what you can expect.
We had an exam. Like we that period, we had an exam. It was a CRE exam, I think, ya mwisho. By the time I was finishing that exam, nimliletewa expulsion letter. And they did not explain to me what I did. And I was given my bags and everything of mine. Wakaniwekea kwa gate. And then funny thing is that ilipata kama huyu msichana tulikuwa tuna keep pesa na yeye. When I was in high school, I used to do a lot of symposium, math contests. I had money. We used to keep those money with her. But when they were getting me out, this girl was still in class. They refused nimuongeleshe. I did not have fare ya kwenda home, and they threw me out of that school. Now wakaniambia figure your way out.
That is going to be coming up next week. So make sure on Monday you catch this podcast everywhere you listen to podcasts on. Another thing that I think I want you to do is come for a group therapy session. Yeah. So it's on the 25th of February at 9:30 a.m. at Kanga Studio. It's going to be facilitated by Faith Guchu, who also happens to be my therapist. The theme is losses without funerals, and it's a really great place to start your intentional healing journey. Tickets are 1,500 Kenya shillings, and if you go to legallycluelessafrica.com, you can grab your tickets. I really hope to see you there. I always love meeting members of this community, and I love that this is not just going to be a frivolous meeting. We're going to be holding each other's hands and, doing this healing and life thing together, which I think is beautiful. Another thing to remember is that this podcast plays on Trace Radio here in Kenya every Monday and Wednesday at 1 p.m. and 11 p.m. and Fridays at 1 p.m. So if you head over to traceradio.co.ke, you can stream Trace there. I am going to end this episode here, but I'm sending you, because I'm so drenched in peace and gratitude. Today I'm not sending you grace. I'm sending you my excess peace. I really do wish you peace of mind and just inner peace and just the ability to see something to be grateful for every day. The big things like a sunrise and a sunset, a hearty laugh that maybe comes your way. I hope that you have the ability to find something to be grateful for every day until the next episode.
That's it for this episode of Legally Clueless. You can share this podcast with your friends. You can keep it for yourself. I'm not judging. Just make sure you're here next week for the next episode.